I've always been a proponent of releasing content on multiple platforms. I think if you're not doing that, you're genuinely doing your content a disservice. So let's say you have a company, for example, and this company has one client. And if this one client decides to cancel their contract, then the company just goes completely out of business. And that's what it's like to rely on YouTube or rely on Twitter or Discord or Facebook Messenger. There's no reason to do it. And I've noticed that a lot of the alt tech platforms that people are going to, like Parler and Bitchute, are both closed source. And I'm telling you now, give it maybe 5-10 years, they will be in the exact same situation that Twitter and YouTube are in. I can guarantee it. Now, regardless of whether you actually agree with the people politically, if people are going to be migrating to different platforms, I would prefer it to be open source platforms where there is much less control. This will by no means be a comprehensive list. What it is my personal recommendations. If you don't like them, feel free to discuss them in the comments section. When it comes to a video platform, there is one clear winner for me, and that is Library, otherwise known as Odyssey. So I've talked about it a few times on the channel before, but basically what it does is it uses a blockchain in the background, which basically stores pointers to where the video and the metadata for those videos are located, and then those videos are downloaded through a system that works in a similar way to BitTorrent, basically. And this has things like full-featured video interactions. Let's just go to this video here. I'll just pause it. And we can do things like liking and disliking the video. There's a comment section here. We can like and dislike the comments. As a creator, I can go and heart a comment. There are comment threads. So basically, it works very similar to the way that YouTube does. Apparently, I can even go and pin comments. This must have slipped under my radar. I didn't actually know this was here. Now, the big reason why I like Library/Odyssey, basically, it's two ways to interact with the same set of videos. Think of it like how YouTube has a website and they also have an Android app. It's just two different interfaces. The reason why I like this is because you can actually go and sync a YouTube channel over to Library, and then every single time that you upload a new video to YouTube, it will be downloaded from YouTube and re-uploaded on this platform with the same title, description, and thumbnail. So I can just basically do no work, and all of my content automatically makes its way over here. Now, it isn't the fastest platform, and it does have some issues here and there. One of the biggest issues it has is that it doesn't support transcoding right now. So basically, the quality the video gets uploaded in is the only quality it can be played back in. So if you have a slower connection and you try to watch one of my videos, everything is going to be in 1080p and you have no option besides watching it like that. But there is some work being put into that to actually make it better and make it so you actually can watch it in lower qualities. And the other thing that makes this platform interesting is that while you're actually using it, not just as a creator, but as a viewer as well, you actually make a bit of LBC, which is the crypto token being used to basically monetize everything on the platform. Obviously, as a viewer, you don't get that much, but it is still more than nothing, and it is pretty easy to actually trade into some other coin. This LBC can either be, donated to a creator, or you can just keep it all for yourself and not pay anyone anything, and that's completely up to you. Also, because the platform is blockchain based, you do actually have to pay a little bit of LBC to have a pointer to your video on the blockchain, but it's less than a cent at this point, so it's not really that big of a deal. And yes, I know someone is going to say it, and I know it's a good option, PeerTube also exists. The problem with PeerTube, though, is it introduces two issues. The first one is a funding issue, so Odyssey has a funding mechanism built into the platform, and they're working on other funding mechanisms where it's going to work in a very similar way to YouTube. We don't really have to think about how to do funding. PeerTube, on the other hand, you're sort of left on your own. You can have a donation button, you can have a Patreon, but there's no advertising system built into PeerTube, which you might think is a good thing. But if you actually want to fund some content, it is easier to have something that already works out of the box. And also, discoverability is an issue as well. Unless you're an established creator, actually getting people onto your PeerTube instance is going to be pretty much impossible. And next up, we have microblogging, which I've noticed that for whatever reason, a lot of people have started to call Twitter clones. I don't know why. Microblogging is a perfectly decent term. Basically, it's a website where you can post these little blog posts, microblogs, and you can see a feed of them. You know the sort of website I'm talking about, and obviously, I'm going to be saying Mastodon here. Like with PeerTube, it's actually impossible to ban you from Mastodon. The reason why it's like this is because there's no central Mastodon server. Basically, it's a federated service, so you have people that run their own instances of Mastodon, and they connect together to form basically this big Mastodon web. That's pretty much what federation is. So if you say get banned from, I don't know, mastodon.com, well, you could always go and make an account on mstdn.social or boss.blog or whatever else you want to make it on, and really the only thing that can happen there is people can decide, okay, we don't want to connect to your server, but you can then decide to connect to other servers who do want to connect to you. And it does have some nice benefits over Twitter. One of those being the much, much higher character limit, which I really do feel like actually helps having proper conversations online. When you have a conversation on Twitter, even after they raised up the character limit from 140 up to 280, you still have to actually think about what you're saying and try to shrink it down into the form of a tweet. It's much less often that you actually have to do that on Mastodon, unless you have like a really long thought, which you probably shouldn't be doing on a microblogging platform. Generally, you can say everything you need to say with 500 characters. And also, if you make a mistake on something, it has the ability to do a delete and redraft, which I don't know how Twitter has gone all of these years not having, but it is such a nice feature to have. But besides that, it does basically everything you'd expect from a microblogging platform. So you can do things like, say, liking a post or reposting it, you can reply to it, you can share music and videos and things like that. Basically, it does everything that Twitter does, but does it better. The best part about Mastodon is probably also the most confusing part about it, and that is the fact that it's federated. So, unlike Twitter, where you just go to twitter.com to actually make an account, there is any number of other instances you can go to of Mastodon besides the one that I'm on, where you can make an account on there. So it's a bit of a different way of actually working, but once you've kind of gotten used to it, it's pretty straightforward. When it comes to a Discord replacement, I don't think there's anything that's really at the level of Discord right now, but probably the closest thing to it is going to be Matrix. So I've done a few videos on Matrix, and I'm very well aware that it's missing a lot of the Discord features like server moderation. It has basic server moderation, but nothing to the level of Discord, and a lot of things like breakout chats and things like that. But as a general community chat client, I think that this is actually a really, really good service to use. Matrix works on a federated system, much like Mastodon does. So I go and host my own Matrix server, and you go and host yours. I connect to yours, and then I can connect to any rooms that are on your server. So a room is basically the same thing as a channel on Discord or a channel on IRC. But we also have the option of using communities as well, which are very rudimentary Discord server sort of things. They're soon going to be replaced with spaces. I haven't tried out spaces just yet, but they're supposed to be much, much better. I do hope they come with, like, you know, space-wide moderation. That's something we really need to see. Once again, because it's a federated system, it is impossible to be banned from Matrix. I can ban you from, matrix.org, and I can ban you from boss.tech, but you cannot be banned from Matrix. You can just go and host your own Matrix instance and, invite people specifically to that one, or connect to other instances which don't really care about the same sort of rules. There are a lot of different Matrix clients you can use. Personally, I like to use Element because it's the most similar to Discord, and being the official client, it's the one that actually gets the most development. So this is the one where all of the newer features come to first. And the last thing I want to mention is private messaging. Now, the two best choices for this one seem to be Signal and Telegram. I'm not going to make a recommendation one way or the other, because I haven't used either long enough to actually come to that conclusion, pretty much just because all the people that I want to talk to on, Facebook, or pretty much because all the people I want to talk to on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp are never going to use Telegram or Signal, so I don't really have anyone to use it with. However, Signal has been recommended by both Elon Musk and Edward Snowden, so if you find those recommendations valuable, then I guess there is that. From what I've seen, Signal seems like it is going to be the better option, because both the client and the server are open source, and the user base is massively soaring, so you're going to have a lot more people actually looking at the code base, whereas on Telegram, the clients are open source, but the server itself is closed source. Now, sadly, they both do require a phone number to actually sign up for, but you technically don't need an active phone number, so you could either go and buy a burner phone and just use the phone number from that, or you could go and get a temporary phone number and use that one. You don't actually need to use your real phone number. Signal also does have the advantage of being end-to-end encrypted all of the time, whereas Telegram is encrypted, but during regular chats, there is still the Telegram cloud that has the keys to actually open up that encryption, so it's not really encrypted unless you own your own keys. The only time that Telegram is really encrypted is when you use a secret chat, but that's not active by default. Which, funnily enough, has led to my country, Australia, trying to get rid of Signal because they cannot actually comply with Australian encryption law, where they pretty much would have to build in a backdoor, but that isn't actually possible when you don't own the encryption keys. Those are going to be my personal recommendations. There are other categories that I could get into, like, say, a replacement for Reddit, but I don't really think that Reddit's really that worth saving to really care about. Same with like a replacement to Facebook. There are alternatives that do exist, but I'd rather just have people not using those platforms altogether. So I think that's going to be pretty much everything for me, but before I go, I would like to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Michael, Andrew, Nathan, David, Monzar, Will, Chico Bento, Joseph, Mitchell, Peter D, Tony Tushar, and all of my $2 supporters. If you'd like to go support my work, there'll be some links down below to my Patreon, Subscribe Star, LibrePay, all of that sort of stuff. I've got my podcast, Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere, and then this channel is available on Odyssey, Library, and Bitchute if you want to watch my content on a platform that isn't YouTube. So I think that's going to be pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.